Hi, and welcome back to JenTalks. This week's subject is something that is very close to my heart. It's a topic I have been speaking about for a long time, not so much on this channel, but certainly in other places, especially as part of my motivational speaking. I've been talking about the concept of it's okay not to be okay. That we are allowed to have our down days. We're allowed to use the word stress or anxiety or even, the darkest of them all, depression. So, I'm going to talk a little bit about my first introduction to what I would call real depression, and how it affected me. And I suppose I want to share that with people so that they can understand that people in my line of work that are considered to have all of the tools often suffer from life challenges in the same way that everybody else does. And the reason why I'm sharing that today is because I know from the groups I teach, when I share about my challenges with anxiety or depression from time to time or stress, people are often shocked to go, "But Jenny, like, you're Mrs. Positivity or the Duracell Bunny or Wonder Woman," whatever names they have for me, because they have the idea that, people who are either life coaches or personal development trainers have the secret to life. And for that reason, they're never going to struggle from all of these life challenges. And here's the truth is we all struggle. And the reason why I'm sharing that is that when you're at home, you are struggling not because you're weak, because it is the human endeavor. It is the human condition to suffer, to come out of suffering, and to be free from suffering, and to go back into suffering. And it's sometimes when we are away from our suffering, when we get our life back, we appreciate it that bit more. Life is full of ups and downs. I mean, John Kabat said, it's we can't stop the waves, but we can learn how to surf. And when you're in the moment of darkness, it's very hard to think about surfing or any of those tools that you might have, but to understand that it will end eventually and you will come out the other side, and then you can think about what tools you can use maybe to prevent it from happening again. And I'm going to talk about that before we finish this talk. So I want to talk about my experience with something called post-traumatic stress. My first experience, my first known experience of it was a few years ago after a head-on car collision. I'd not that long before that had been in a near-death experience with my health. And people kept saying to go, you need to go to counseling, you need to look at that, you probably have post-traumatic stress. And I was like, no, I was just so grateful to be alive. I didn't feel any of the things that I was expected to feel. But then when I was in the car crash, it was like everything from the previous years, and that hit me all at once. And the worst thing about it for me was I didn't actually know that I had depression. I just knew I felt like rubbish. My life was falling apart around me. Days were falling out of my head. And the time when I actually realized I was probably at least 5 months suffering from depression before it really twigged with me what was going on was I was sitting in the hairdressers with color on my hair, and a text message came through on my phone, or a phone call came through on my phone. And when I seen the number, I realized that I was somewhere that I was meant to be, that was really important. And what frightened the life out of me is me as a natural person. One of my natural personality traits is I'm obsessed with dates and calendars and planning. And I had gone into work that day, opened my diary on the computer, looked at it. In my mind, I saw that it was completely clear. I felt really low and really rubbish. So I said, well, why don't you go to the hairdressers, maybe getting your hair done, it'll help you pick you up. Like, your diary's clear. You can do what you need to do for work later on. I had that flexibility with my job. And sitting in the hairdressers, I had a phone call from someone for a meeting that I was meant to be in the middle of. And my God, in that moment, I felt so full of shame. I was embarrassed. I was mortified. I felt like I was losing my grip on reality. I was scared. I was really, really scared. And it was that point then I went to the doctor and I got some help. I got some medication, which again was another experience I felt shameful about at the time, because I was like, how can I stand up and talk to people about personal development and positivity when I'm taking antidepressants or anti-anxiety medication? But I got over that because I couldn't function in my life without them. They were really helpful for me at the time. And I also started talking therapy and like counseling. So that really helped me as well. And I had some other treatments along the way. I had EFT, I had non-talking therapies, I had bioenergy, I had lots of different acupuncture. I had lots of different therapies to try and help me get back on track. I just basically threw the book at it. And thankfully for me, I don't get bouts of depression very often. I had about a year to a year and a half, I think, of post-traumatic stress from that car crash. Maybe it took longer. I can't remember exactly how long it took me. I know I was probably on medication for about a year to a year and a half, probably talking therapies for 2 to 3 years. But I did eventually come out. I came out slowly but surely, little by little. I came back to myself. And every now and again, that darkness haunts me, comes back. And very recently, which is why I haven't been online in a couple of weeks, I had another bout of depression. This time, it wasn't so much a head-on car collision. It was a collection of life travesties just happening. And it's like the human nature, the human endeavor, that it was like just one thing just snapped with me. So, it began with family conflict. Then my apartment flooded. My apartment had an inspection, and there was just, my heating was broken. I was just like layers and layers and layers and layers. And the funniest thing of all, the thing that tipped me over the edge was actually that my sink was blocked. The simplest thing in the world for me to rectify, and that was the thing that just pushed me over the edge. I remember breaking down, crying, and it was in that moment that I realized, actually, I've been feeling this rubbish for a couple of weeks now, but I just didn't realize that I was actually really, really struggling. And when I say depression, it's probably, depression is a real spectrum of feelings. For me, I was lacking in motivation. I wasn't feeling myself. I was feeling very lonely and low and tired and irritated. And I definitely was carrying a lot of anxiety. And because I have so many tools in the toolkit, I was using the tools to try and overcome the anxiety. So I was putting a sticky plaster really over the problem. So when I realized, when I had that moment of overwhelm over the blocked sink and I burst into tears, I down tools. So that's the one thing I do know for sure that I need to do when I get like that. So luckily for me, I was able to clear my schedule. I contacted friends that I was meant to meet up at and arrangements and appointments that I had, and I just literally cancelled, postponed anything and everything I possibly could. And I went back to nursing and nurturing and mothering myself. And that included walks when I could leave the apartment, when I could get out. Lots of cooking, making homemade soups, because that's something that fills me with joy. Cooking is one of my joy hobbies. It really fills me up inside. And having pajama days when I needed them, eating my favorite food. For me, when I feel like that, I avoid alcohol because it just makes it heightens anxiety for me. And this time, what I did differently than I did before was I was honest with people. I said, don't worry about me, but I'm not answering my phone. I'm down in tools. I'm hibernating now. I'm feeling a bit low. I even used the word depressed to a couple of people, to really just emphasize that this is me doing what I need to do to come out of the hole that I'm in. Am I out of it completely? No, I wouldn't say so. I'd say I'm probably 70 to 80%, but I'm well enough to be here talking about it, which is big because, anyone that's shared those experiences, all you want to do is hide. You definitely don't want to be visible. You definitely want to be visible to the outside world, never mind, on the World Wide Web. But I'm strong enough to be here today because I have the awareness of what it is that I need when I'm low. And that for me is the ultimate self-care. I've said it here before. My own definition that I've coined for self-care is checking in with yourself and asking what it is that you need and providing for yourself what it is that you need. So throughout this bout of depression that I've had, I've been working. I've started in 2 new jobs. So the people I'm working alongside may or may not be aware of that. Some of my students that I teach on a regular basis, I've shared it with them. I've said to them my struggles, and they've said to me, but that's frightening because if you can get like that and you have all the tools, like that means none of us are safe. And I said, but who is really, who is really safe from the world's challenges? Nobody is. And it's the whole idea of that life will throw an awful lot at you. And sometimes you'll be able to catch those balls and juggle them. And sometimes you won't. Sometimes they're going to floor you. And it's those moments of being floored that you have to understand that it's okay to admit that you're not okay in this moment of time, that you are these big challenges are bigger than you in this moment, and they mightn't be big challenges, but the challenges are bigger than you, maybe because there's so many of them all in one go, or maybe that they are so big. And it's okay to say, oh, this is beating me right now, and I am not okay. And it's okay for me to be not okay, even if I'm a life coach or a motivational speaker or an author, or whatever labels you might give yourself, or a mother or a father or a brother or a sister or a friend. It's okay to say, I'm not okay. I'm not going to meet you later because I really need to do what I need to do, which is stay at home, lie on the couch, whatever it might be. So the reason why I'm sharing this talk with you is to really send out the message that this whole, what would you say, culture of toxic positivity, which is like, as long as you paint a smile on your face, everything's going to be fine, and you just only think positive thoughts, well, then everything's going to be fine. And it can be toxic if it prevents us from being real with ourselves. The most important person for you to check in with and look after is yourself, because you can't look after the people that you love if you're not looking after yourself. And it's only by being honest with yourself. How are you feeling today, Jenny? Are you feeling like rubbish? Yeah, I'm feeling like rubbish. What do you need? I need a lie on. Well, you can't have a lie on today because you got to go to work, but maybe you could have a lie down on the couch and come home. Okay. But maybe before you go to work, you could do something soothing or nurturing for yourself. And I know it sounds really kind of corny, but for me, one of my kind of soothing acts is to have tea and toast in bed. Just get up, make your tea and toast, get back into bed, have your tea and toast as you're starting into the day, and to just really nourish yourself as if you would if you weren't well physically, or you're minding somebody that wasn't well and you're really looking after them, or you're looking after your children. What would you do for them? To do those acts for yourself, and to be patient with yourself, that you will come out of it if you're kind and caring and nurturing to yourself. And if you don't after a week or two, or even before then, it might be time to reach out, go back to the doctor, or go to the doctor, or go to whoever you normally go to treat you. And that's okay too. I mean, we're living in some challenging times, and life has its challenges. On top of all of the other challenges we might have, we could have full moons, we could have eclipse, we could have hormones, we could have, who knows what's going on. But there's an awful lot of stuff going on for everybody every day. So when it feels like it gets too much, well, that's when you got to really start taking better care of yourself and down in tools, which is what I did. So thankfully, I'm back here to share that with you. And from next week onwards, I'm going to share some of the tools that I used to drag me out of the black hole that I've been in for the past few weeks. And thankfully, to be able to be here online posting and genuinely posting with love and joy on my heart to be here, and to be able to give you permission to say it's okay to be not okay. That's the truth of it. So I hope this talk touched your heart and you learned something about yourself or other people in your life today. And if you did, feel free to give it a like or a comment. And as I always say, contact me directly through social media, as many people do, and I'll be happy to support you and offer you some advice and some guidance. But in the meantime, take care and stay safe. And I shall see you back here same time next week. Thank you so much for joining me again this week. As always, this is Jenny on JenTalks. Bye now.